Welcome to this episode of Viatorian Voices, where our conversations on the way give witness to the ministry and spirituality of walking with youth and those who go underserved. We carry the charism of our founder, the Venerable Louis Curbs, who taught us, "Strive to do everything well, so that through you, Jesus may be adored and loved." Here's your host, Viatorian Associate Dan Masterton.
In this episode, we explore our global solidarity with Burkina Faso and speak with Associate Julien Magloire Oubda. Julien met the Viatorians as a student at the Groupe Scolaire Saint Viateur in Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso. He and his wife Esther have 3 children, and they both committed as associates in 2023. Julien has studied sociology and management, and he most recently worked as a contractor with programs of the United Nations Food and Agriculture Agency. But such initiatives have been destabilized by the budget cuts to USAID. Our Viatorian presence in Burkina Faso began as a foundation of the province of Canada in 1999. Over time, ministries grew and Burkinabe vocations emerged. So last year, the Viatorians made Burkina Faso, as well as Ivory Coast and Haiti, a region, which adjusts structures to give members a bit more self-governance and more voice in the international community, also helping set the course to perhaps one day become a province. In this episode, Julien orients us to the church and Viatorian community in his country and gives witness to our faith and charism on behalf of his fellow Burkinabe Viatorians. After you listen, help us tell the Viatorian story by rating our podcast in your favorite app, sending this episode link to a friend, and praying for and encouraging young men considering Viatorian religious life and all people considering Viatorian association. First, I asked Julien to share how he first met the Viatorians and eventually discerned to become an associate.
So thank you very much. I thank you for this invitation. It's a pleasure to be with you today. I'm grateful for the opportunity to share my experience and reflect on the life and mission of the Viatorian communities in Burkina Faso. I first encountered the Viatorian from the educational and pastoral work, especially when they opened the school in Burkina Faso in October 2000. I was actually part of the very first group of students, which gave me a close and personal experience of who they are. From the very beginning, I was struck by simplicity, the closeness to people, and the very human way they live their faith. At that time, I did not have a clear idea of commitment. However, the quality of relationship, the spirit of fraternity, and the Viatorians' witness gradually led me to reflect more deeply and to pray in order to discern God's call. The accompaniment of Father Jean-Marc Provost is the religious who was here. He's the first delegation who come from Canada to create the community of Burkina Faso. So his accompaniment was especially important in this journey. From his listening and guidance, it strengthens the vocation of my wife and my Viatorian Associate. Over time and through discernment, we choose to commit ourselves to the Viatorian communities.
To better understand our context in Burkina Faso, it's important to reflect on the religious demographics there. The country is situated on the edge of where the Muslim majority area of Africa meets the edges of the more heavily Christian areas of Africa. Julien reflects on this reality with some facts and figures to help situate our Viatorian presence in his country.
Here in Burkina Faso, there are many Muslims. I think that Muslim is the majority in the population. Perhaps more than 15%. And after Muslim, there are Christian. Christian, I speak about Catholic and Protestant. There are perhaps more than 38. After them, there are natural religion, but there are not a little. Most of the Burkinabe are Muslim or Christian. The Catholic Church in Burkina Faso is a living and committed church, while deeply rooted in social realities. It plays an essential role in education, healthcare, human development, and in accompanying vulnerable population, especially in a context marked by many security and economic challenges. Viatorian communities is fully part of this dynamic. What seems distinctive to me about Viatorian life is the strong emphasis placed on the educational mission, the integral formation of the person, and the close collaboration between religious and lay people. Viatorian life is also characterized by a spirit of simplicity, strong fraternity, and a deep commitment to serving young people and local communities. It is a very incarnate spirituality oriented toward action and witness.
While cultural contexts differ from country to country and bring diverse expression to our charism in each place, our ministries also often have many things in common from place to place. In Julien's description of our work in Burkina Faso, we hear the distinct reach of Viatorians in the country and also hear some familiar threads.
The Viatorians in Burkina Faso are engaged in several missions, mainly in education, pastoral ministry, and social accompaniment. We work especially in school, parishes, young formation, as well as an initiative focused on human development and communities development. We primarily serve young people, children, families, and vulnerable communities, particularly in rural and peri-urban areas. Our way of serving is based on closeness, listening, formation, and strengthening of local capacities. The goal is not to respond to immediately needs, but also to help people become agents of their own development with a focused dignity, justice, and hope. In education, we have a school, we have one school in Ouagadougou, is the first one in Burkina Faso, and his name is Groupe Scolaire Viator de Ouagadougou, a secondary school. And after we have another school in Bamfora. Bamfora is the fourth city of the country. We have Établissement Louis Kerr. We call it Établissement Louis Kerr. And there are technique for technique training. There are also general training. And there are also in Bamfora, Viatorians have a parish and they have also one school in a small city in Bagri. But there are not many people. It's not easy for those who work there because always they have to use money to help. There are vulnerable communities, so it's very, very difficult. Last year, we opened another school, a technical school in Ouagadougou to help people who left school to learn technique like building, like mechanical, auto mechanical, agricultural. There are many things to be a good citizen in the country.
As Burkina Faso begins to live out its era as a region, it's definitely an acknowledgement of the growth of our ministry and membership in the country. But Julien adds that it's also a reminder to continue being responsible stewards of our spirituality and how we serve and live as communities, especially as a response to a vote of confidence from fellow Viatorians in the international Viatorian community.
The transition to a regional status, his experiences have a great source of pride, a recognition, and responsibility. It reflects not only the numerical growth of the communities, but also its human, spiritual, and institutional maturity. The Viatorian in Burkina Faso see this step as a sign of hope and of trust from the international Viatorian communities. It strengthens the sense of belonging and encourages greater responsibility among local members. Looking to the years ahead, hopes and dreams focus on strengthening formation, developing new ministry, promoting local vocation, and making an even more meaningful contribution to the Viatorian mission at the international level.
Julien's own Viatorian discernment is fairly recent, as he decided to commit to Viatorian Association less than 3 years ago. As we think about how to encourage others to consider Viatorian life and continue to be the voice of God's invitations, Julien advises discerners, be sure to meet and spend time with Viatorians, experiencing Viatorian life with others in person.
I would first tell to this person not to be afraid to ask questions and to take time for discernment. A vocation is a journey that unfolds gradually through prayers, listening, and accompaniment. I will encourage them to meet Viatorians, to share in their life, to become involved in their activities, and to observe how they live their faith in daily life. Concretely, experience is often more meaningful than long explanation. Finally, I will say that Viatorian life, whether lived in a religious or as an associate, is a beautiful way to serve the church and society while growing both humanly and spiritually.
That's all for this episode of Viatorian Voices. We'd like to thank Julien for his witness, and we pray for Esther and his family, for his work, and for our community in Burkina Faso. To learn a short history of each country where we serve, including the Canadians' work to establish this presence in Burkina Faso, visit csviderintl.org. Select English in the upper right corner, and use the drop-down menus to explore. That's csviderintl.org. Most importantly, remember you can help us tell the Viatorian story by rating our podcast in your favorite app, sending this episode link to a friend, and praying for and encouraging young men considering Viatorian religious life and all people considering Viatorian Association.
Viatorian Voices, Conversations on the Way, is a production of the Viatorian community. Viatorians are professed brothers and priests, and women and men lay associates. Together we proclaim Jesus Christ and the gospel and raise communities where faith is lived, deepened, and celebrated. In the footsteps of the Venerable Louis Querbes and under the patronage of Saint Viator, we strive to do everything well, so that through us, Jesus may be adored and loved. To learn more about our community, visit Viatorians.com or follow us on social media at Viatorian USA. Young adults can connect with faith-filled peers at Viatorian YA on the Way on Instagram, where Viatorian young adults are walking together in faith. We invite people seeking accompaniment in exploring God's invitations to reach out to vocation ministry. Send a DM on social media or email vocations@viatorians.com to start a conversation. Viatorian Voices is produced and hosted by Associate Dan Masterton, Director of Communications. Our Provincial Superior is Father Mark Francis. Voiceovers by me, Associate Dan Schwarz. Until next time, Venerable Louis Curbs, inspire us. Saint Viator, pray for us. Adored and loved be Jesus.